Absolute value equation. Really? Yes. Here we go. Here's first problem. Solve this. The absolute value of x plus 3. Well, no, let's do this. Absolute value of x equals 4. Let's just go with the generic simple thing. What is the answer to that? What number, when you put it in for x, will give you a positive 4? Actually, I should say what numbers?
-4, 4.
All right, so x is -4 and 4. Okay? Now maybe that'll help in you when you think about this, because this is the simple fundamental rule for solving absolute value. You're always going to get two answers. Okay? And they're not always going to be the same number. Okay? Just get that in your head. It's not always going to be, but here's what you need to do. Step number 1 is you need to isolate the absolute value sign. You have to isolate the absolute value sign. And then number 2, you have to make 2, I repeat, not 1, but 2 equations one of them with the given answer, the given equal sign. And the other with the opposite. This won't make any sense until we actually do it, but it's good to write this down. With opposite sign. This will make not much sense until we actually do this. Aren't you ready? Let's write that down. Example number 2. Solve the absolute value of x plus 3 equals 8. Are you with me? Focus now. Here's the big part. You get nothing else today, get this. Step number 1 is to isolate the absolute value sign. This is already been isolated. We'll see in the next example when you have to do that. By isolate, it means get the absolute value, whatever, and it doesn't matter what's in it. Get the absolute value sign by itself with the number. So that's already been done. Once you get to that, you have to make 2 equations from this. One of them is exactly what it is right there. You get x plus 3 equals 8. That's one answer. The other one is the same equation, except you still get the x plus 3, except whatever is on the equal sign, you make its opposite, so that equals a -8. Those are what's going to give you the 2 answers. Because like you saw up here, when you got the absolute, inside the absolute value sign, you want 4 and -4. Well, that's what I want to get here. To get an 8 out there, whatever's in here has to end up both being a +8 and a -8. And that's where this gives you the +8. If you subtract 3, you subtract 3. One answer is x equals 5, because if I put 5 in here, 5 plus 3 is 8. That gives me that. The other answer is here. When I subtract 3, I subtract 3. X is a -11. If I put -11 in for x, -11 plus 3 is a -8, and the absolute value of -8 is 8. So these would be the 2 answers, 5 and -11. Got that? Yes. Now, let's go a little more complicated. Let's go right for the juggler. For times the absolute value of x minus 2 equals, oh, by the way, you can't get a negative sign at the end, because you can never have a negative absolute value. Well, you could in this case. Well, no, not. I guess you can. Are you ready for this one? Step number 1 is to isolate the absolute value. So that means my first step here is I have to get rid of this. Before you change this to a negative 80 and solve 2 equations, you have to get rid of this first. You want this all by itself. So you do it just like normal. You divide by 4. Divide by 4. So now the absolute value of x minus 2 is 20. Then once you have it isolated, that's when you take and separate into 2 problems. You get x minus 2 equals what it is here, and you get x minus 2 equals a negative 20. Both is positive and it's negative. You add 2, you add 2. One answer is x equals 22. The other answer is negative 18. Those are your answers. Does negative 18 work? Sure, because negative 18 minus 2 is negative 20. The answer is positive 20. By the way, you always think of a grouping symbol as a absolute value as a grouping symbol. That's why you would combine these numbers before you make them positive. Good point, sir.
Good point, Mr. Hahn.
Great. Great. Let's go for the super hard one.
Negative juggler.
I don't think there is one.
Go right for the heart. Juggler 2.
Why don't they do 2 of these things? I'm going to do 2 of these things. Let's solve the hardest one humanly possible right now. 5 times the absolute value of x minus 3 plus 10 equals 30. I just made that up in case you're wondering. I don't know if it'll work or not. So step number 1 is to isolate the absolute value. So what would be my first thing I would do? Westfall.
Divide by 5.
Nope.
Oh.
You're close though. That's one of the first things, but that would not be the absolute first. Abram?
Subtract 10.
Yeah, you always get rid of the addition subtraction stuff first. So you subtract 10. Subtract 10, you get 20 here. Now, Mr. Carter Westfall, once you have that, then you would
Divide by 5.
divide by 5. Divide by 5. So now the absolute value of x minus 3 equals 4. Then, once this is isolated, there's where you write your 2 equations. One of them is x minus 3 equals 4. The other one is x minus 3 equals negative 4. And my 2 answers would be, ladies and gentlemen, add 3 to this one, you get 7. Add 3 to this one, you get negative 1. We'll try one just to see if it works. If you put 7 in for x, 7 minus 3 is 4. The absolute value of 4 is 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 10 is 30. Yay. If I put negative 1 in for that, negative 1 minus 3 is a negative 4, but the absolute value of that is positive 4 times 5 is 20, plus 10 is 30. These, ladies and gentlemen, are your 2 answers. Everybody, I repeat, everybody is fantastically happy. So I got a half a notion to go. One more time. Nope. Let's do something.
Ask me this. 1 through 2. 1 through 1.
Nope, this time let's do, I got a quiz, because I want to do a quiz, I think. Maybe I don't. If I do, maybe I don't.
Checkmate.
Let's go with this one.